Today I'm going. First of all, I should say that I have my son and his family visiting from London. So I have two additional little grandchildren. I have one son, Mark, who lives here, and he has three kids, and my son Eric, who lives in London, has two kids, and they're visiting. So it's pretty hectic. I've even got my brother from Toronto coming to visit next week, so we're going to be pretty busy here. But I did want to make a video because there's been an interesting sort of exchange on my YouTube channel. A person who calls himself Cheeky something or other commented on a video that I did quite a while ago where I talked about the future of the iPad and mobile devices when it comes to language learning. I think they are phenomenal, and I sort of compared them to the old the clay tablet that the Roman school children would carry around, and of course the iPad. And it doesn't have to be the iPad, it can be any of these electronic tablets. They enable you to read, they enable you to look up words that you don't know. You can store tremendous amount of text and audio and even video there. You can communicate via Skype with native speakers. You can review flashcards. I mean, there's so many things that you can do on these mobile devices. I use my iPad regularly because I prefer to on Link to create my links at the computer, but I don't read then. And then I go off and I can read in the comfort of sitting in my living room on my iPad. I can set my iPad up on my elliptical trainer, so I'm exercising and I have downloaded the audio, which is running on my MP3 player. So I'm listening to it. I could do it through the iPad, but I just don't. It's more convenient for me to have it going in the background. I'm jogging, I'm reading. With my finger, I'm poking at words that I don't know, so they pop up and so I can keep up. And I'm listening to the text, and I do that for 25 minutes, and it's a tremendous exercise of interacting with the language. And I'm sure that there will be more and more applications developed for iPhone, iPad, or Android, or whatever, which to me is quite revolutionary. So someone came on and said that these iPads are a distraction, that essentially you have to have that face-to-face interaction between the teacher and the learner in order for learning to take place. And so we've had quite a lively exchange, and so I guess the question comes up, what is the future role of a classroom or a teacher insofar as language learning is concerned? So let me say that, I've often said that I believe that massive input is almost a precondition for being able to learn grammar. That without this exposure to the language, the grammar explanations don't stick. I've said that it's very difficult, and this is based on my experience as a learner and watching other people learn. It's very difficult to learn these rules and study a few words and try and put them together, because all of these grammar concepts take a long time to sink in, and it requires a lot of exposure and experience with the language before these explanations start to make sense and start to stick. And therefore, my preference is to focus on listening and reading, vocabulary accumulation, so that I have a more solid base in comprehension so that I can understand the language. I don't worry about speaking for 6 months, for a year, depending on the language. And I find that when I start to speak, or if I have a need to speak, the bigger my vocabulary, the more familiar I am with the language, the better I understand what I hear, the better I do. So then, what is the role of the class? What is the role of the classroom? Well, the role of the classroom is not going to go away because most people aren't motivated enough to learn on their own. Most people believe that they can only learn in the classroom. So the idea that there are all these resources available on the internet is relatively new. I find that the explanations of grammar, I can find them all over the internet, so I don't have to sit in the classroom and hope that the issue that I have difficulty with is the one that the teacher is going to focus on that day. I can zoom in on those issues that I'm interested in. So, however, now I want to backtrack and say that at Link, I would say that the best tutors are people who are professional teachers. Okay? That's whether it be, Evgeny in St. Petersburg, whether it be Reinhard in Vienna, and I'm not going to name everybody, but But even insofar, and I deal with a lot of tutors, and so that's the second issue. I need tutors. Once I have spent enough time with the language, be it 6 months or more, then I need to talk to tutors. I need the tutors to point out my mistakes. I have to sometimes ask them questions. What also happens in the case of LingQ, you have tutors who create content about different issues of grammar and put them in our library. So we can review them over and over again. We can listen to them in the target language, whether it be Vero's content in German or Evgeny's in Russian or whomever. I can listen to it over and over again. So I'm listening and reading and also focusing on those grammar issues that I'm ready to focus on, that I want to focus on. So the role of the teacher remains important. The role of the teacher, first of all, as a stimulus, because if I know that I'm going to be talking to my tutor, it kind of keeps me going. I want to show my tutor that I'm improving. The tutor is very often a source of encouragement, a source of stimulus, but it's not so much a matter of explaining things. That's the thing, that the teacher as explainer, I just don't see that as such an important role, because the theoretical explanation is not going to do it. You have to see the patterns over and over again, refer over and over again, perhaps to some grammar rules where the learner has the initiative. And so in our exchange, of course, with this person on the iPad and language learning or something like that. In fact, I might put a link to that particular video. I mean, he goes on and on about how if you don't come to the classroom, you can't learn because it's very difficult, because there's 5 different future tenses. I mean, yeah, you can make the language sound as complicated as you want. I don't think anyone can absorb 5 future tenses at one sitting. But if a learner has had enough exposure to the language, bit by reviewing certain grammar rules, either on their own or by having their writing or their conversational language corrected, they'll start to notice these things more and more. So, many people tell me at LingQ that they have learned much more with us than they have in a more traditional classroom setting. That's not to condemn the teacher. I think there are lots of excellent teachers. But in a classroom with 15 or 20 other students, the teacher decides the agenda. And I think that the learner needs to decide the agenda. And the learner needs to control their learning. And I suspect that what's going to happen is that what we are doing at LingQ, and of course the other thing that people like to criticize me for is that I'm just out promoting and pushing this product that I'm selling and stuff like that. Of course I'm promoting LingQ, but why did I create LingQ in the first place? Because I think it's helpful to language learning. Now, of course, we have a lot of costs at LingQ, so we're obviously interested in encouraging people to come and use it, and the more people who come and use it, the more we can invest in making it better. That's no different than the commercial interest that a teacher has or an ESL school has in promoting their form of language instruction services. It's the same. And we are ultimately, what matters the most is where is the best return on investment for the language learner. In other words, is the language learner better off going to an ESL school? Say the person wants to learn English. Say, jump on a plane from Japan or Brazil, fly to Vancouver, enroll in an ESL school that's $1,200 a month, and stay in a homestay and do all of these things. Is that a good return on investment? Ultimately, that's what's going to matter, and the market will decide that. I think that it's not ideal. I think that a smaller number of instructional hours, a smaller number of hours of interaction, 3 hours a week, 5 hours a week would be very heavy in my opinion, 1, 2, 3 hours a week with a tutor, either online or face-to-face, and then some encouragement from the tutor, some explanation on how to learn, directing the tutor to where, or the learner rather, to where they can find excellent resources. That's a better use of the teacher's time, better return on investment for the learner, and it would enable teachers to reach many, many more people. In the case of Canada, I mean, immigrants, apparently we spend $3,000 per head per year on immigrant language training. And a recent study out of Toronto showed that at least amongst the Chinese-speaking immigrants, who are the largest source country in Canada, after 7 years, a group of 3,000 of these immigrants were followed, and they were enrolled in language programs here, and they made essentially no progress. No progress. The sort of another group, the Slavic speakers, did make progress. And the reason they make progress is because they were more likely to make friends with Canadians, interact more with Canadians, take a greater interest in the local culture. In other words, what mattered the most was what they did outside the classroom, not what they did inside the classroom. So that being the case, why spend $3,000 a year per immigrant or $1,200 a month for these ESL programs when there are more cost-effective ways that you can utilize teacher resources? And after all, it's only a small percentage of immigrants that are helped through these language programs. Many more are unable to get into these programs. So why wouldn't we devise a more efficient way to enable teachers to help learners, or to encourage learners to learn on their own? And I think in that regard, the iPad, iPhone, other mobile devices, Android, and the internet, and all the resources that are on the internet are revolutionary, and they have changed the paradigm. And so to continue to insist that language instruction can only take place in the classroom, as this cheeky whatever is doing, he alternates between that and getting vulgar and insulting me. To me, I understand the guy. He wants to protect his job. That's fine. Plus, that's perhaps all he knows. But the reality is that there are so many other resources available today that didn't exist even 10 years ago, let alone 50 years ago. So there you have it. I thought I would just, and he's welcome to make a video and post it here as a response. I haven't deleted any of his, even though they're kind of a bit nasty. I haven't deleted any of his comments. I think the free exchange of ideas, and it's not, and I repeat this, it's not anti-teacher. I think while there are some teachers who are protectionist of their position and closed-minded, I know a lot of teachers who are looking for new resources, looking for ways to do their job better, who want to help more people. Some of them are members of LINC, some of them are the best tutors that we have. But I think that, and I also recognize that in a public school environment, a large number of students are not very motivated, and therefore the teacher's job really is to push the curriculum at them and force them to take tests and hope that most of them pass. And of course, if we look at the results in Canada, even where many do pass, say they're French, very few of them learn how to speak the language. So there is something fundamentally wrong with what we're doing in the way languages are taught in the school system. And I think to basically dismiss the iPad and mobile devices as some kind of a distraction, promoted by the crass commercialism of Apple and examples of the sort of out of control consumerism in the modern world and stuff like that, to me it defeats the purpose. The issue is, can they be used effectively to augment and to what is done by the teacher, to empower the learner, to empower the teacher? I think the answer is yes. So there you have it. Thank you for listening.